says to start with why. But according to my next guest, true leadership and innovation actually begins with who. Today, I'm honored to welcome Steve Waddell, an entrepreneur, innovator, and resilience-driven leader who has built his business by focusing not just on purpose, but the people he serves. Steve is the founder of Nasoni, a company that started with a simple idea, making everyday life easier by solving a common problem. But as an entrepreneur knows, the path to success is rarely smooth. Steve's journey took an unexpected turn when a last-minute tariff wiped out his entire marketing budget right before launch. Ouch. Instead of letting this setback define him, I love what he did next. He embraced a new approach, one that he now calls the valuepreneur approach. It's a philosophy rooted in resilience, gratitude, and bold creative action, one that transforms adversity into opportunity. Steve, what a pleasure. Welcome to the show.
Tara, the pleasure and honor is all mine. Thank you for having me here today.
Well, quite a story. And for everybody's reference, I actually saw you deliver your TED Talk live in person at TEDx Warrington in Virginia. I came there to see one of my friends, Harvey Castro, deliver his speech, and then I met you in the process. Yours was such a great talk. It left me on the edge of my seat, and it gave me a new perspective, not just in business, but questioning everyday advice, right?
Yeah.
To questioning what we hear all the time, like start with why. But when you explained it in such an eloquent way, by the way, it really resonated deeply. And I knew that more people had to hear this message. So that's why I wanted you on the show today.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, first of all, I got to give a shout out to the TEDx Warrington team. They did a fantastic job on hosting the event. They were just great, all of them. And it was a pleasure meeting you there. As far as, the difference, if you want to talk about the difference and why I say start with who and not why, when you think about it, you think about a prime example. Simon Sinek says businesses, you don't buy what people do, you buy why they do it, right? And so certainly we can all get behind a company that has good intentions, to benefit the planet, things like that, and so forth. But when you think about starting with that mission, that doesn't resonate with customers right off the bat. You got to solve a pain, right? You got to, especially for entrepreneurs. That's really where I'm coming from, is the voice of the entrepreneur. You need to find what their pain point is. Let's take one prime example. Jamie Siminoff. Do you know who he is?
I don't know who he is. Fill me in.
He's probably my favorite near-term entrepreneur, simply because he went on Shark Tank. And if you remember Ring Doorbell, he did not get a deal. All of them rejected him.
I do know who he is. That's all you needed to say. Yes, I know who he is. Okay.
And it's the coolest story because Ring ended up selling to Amazon for $1 billion. And he went back on Shark Tank as a guest shark. Is that not the ultimate? Well, let's take his story, right? He was working in his garage and wanted to see who was at the front door, and he couldn't do that. And so he invented this Ring doorbell to solve his own pain, because he thought, hey, others may want to know who's at the front door, when you're not at the front door. And so he went about turning Ring into ultimately a home security device. In my own experience, I've seen and heard about Ring doorbell for many years, never had one. But in November, when I gave my TED Talk, Black Friday deal, I got a Ring Doorbell Pro. And I just installed it in January. And it really has transformed things, because for me, now I get a notice when someone's at my door. So I get an Amazon delivery, pick it up, and I can see a video of who's at the door. If I want to interact, I can press a button and I can communicate with them. And so he transformed that experience. But now people share their Ring doorbell videos, like somebody breaking into their car, somebody sneaking through the neighborhood. So they become a personal safety device for the community, for neighborhoods. Police now rely on those things, right? And Jamie can now build products and more software add-ons to that, like selling a Ring service, that he could never have envisioned from the beginning. So if Why now is about building safer neighborhoods. You can't start with that, right? He could have never envisioned a doorbell if his original goal was a safer neighborhood.
Exactly. I love that. That's such a powerful analogy, right? And it's innovation.
It absolutely is.
It's such a key. But I have a ring as well, and that's one of the features that I really like. When somebody has an issue in the community, whatever it is, they, put it out as like on a message board of, sorts, and you go there and see what's going on inside your community. It's so powerful, and it has to help law enforcement. So again, this is, something that we think about as truly innovating in business. But I want to go back to your journey a little bit because, in your TEDx talk, I love the analogy you used of the Kraken, right? Coming to overthrow your ship. It's seared in my mind, Steve, by the way. Thanks for that. But the Kraken was taking down the ship, right? And that was the tariff. And it was right before launch. So this is going to give every business owner that's listening to this right now a little mild heart attack, probably, and maybe some anxiety. But I would love to hear, like, where was your mind at this juncture in time with your business? You're about ready to launch. The Kraken comes, you get hit with the tariff. And now what do? Where was your mind at?
Remember, a lot of things happen in threes. We actually had 3 Krakens in that story. The first one was, I patented my product too soon, right? We weren't far. You need to be further along in your development journey before you apply for a patent. Because what happened was I didn't have a roadmap to follow. And that's why I actually wrote the book, Valuepreneurs. It's all the stuff I've learned on this journey on how to take a product from idea to selling. But I didn't have that path to follow. So I was, just hit or miss and figuring out on my own. And so I applied for a patent too early. And when the design changed, the patent was no longer any good. So all the money I spent to get the patent was useless. Well, then the next Kraken was when, if you remember, a 25% China tariff was implemented around 2018, 2019. That was as my product was being shipped from Asia to the US. And on a $200,000 order, that's $50,000. So yeah, as I mentioned in the TEDx talk, my entire marketing budget was consumed in one brutal gulp overnight by the Kraken.
Wow.
And so I'm like, yeah, what am I going to do? Well, then the product gets here, and a couple months later, COVID hits. And if you recall the story, that's the biggest Kraken of all, right? Because let me explain can I explain the product?
Yes, please tell us about it, because I know everybody's got to be interested by now.
All right, so let me ask you this. I spent 25 years building nuclear-powered aircraft carriers and submarines, best ships in the world. And then I spent 11 years helping grow my wife's company with her from a startup to a multi-million-dollar business. But along the way, you get inspired watching shows like Shark Tank. And if you have a daily problem, a pain that you really want to see solved, sometimes you just will take that risk and see if you can do it, right? At least I do. I feel that way. So my pain was, let me ask you first, when you go to rinse after you brush your teeth, do you tilt your head, cup your hand, or use a cup?
I don't use a cup. And again, your TEDx talk is seared in my mind. And thanks for that. So I don't use a cup. I tilt. I do the tilt.
Exactly. And that's what I did, right? Because we all know about the aerosol effect. When you flush a toilet, bioaerosols eject and they land on all the surfaces, including that cup that never gets washed often enough. And so I always tilted my head. And so one day I saw these Nasoni street fountains of Rome. And the way they work, it's a 150-year-old invention. And what happened was the mayor back then, equivalent to a mayor in Italy, wanted to make water more equitable for an entire population, make it free. And so they took water from the Apennine Mountains, floated through the Roman aqueducts, and up through these street fountains that look like a fire hydrant. And a little tube hangs off the side. Plug the bottom, water pops out the top like a water fountain. If you ever saw Eat, Pray, Love with Julia Roberts, the movie, she actually uses one in the movie. But when I saw that, I'm like, why isn't that in the bathroom? It just makes common sense. And I thought to myself, I've grown up all my life with this same problem. It's like the big faucet companies don't care, don't know any better. The faucet was originally patented, the bathroom faucet, in 1870. About the time Gunsmoke, the TV show Gunsmoke, was depicted, right? And so that's a long time ago. Nobody's changed it. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to reinvent the bathroom faucet. So I set out to do that, and I entered startup competitions. You know, you need funding. I
Mhm.
actually went on Steve Harvey's Thunderdome. I won $50,000 competing against another entrepreneur on stage with Steve Harvey. And that led me toward getting investment, which then led us into production and where we are. So to show you what we built, this is actually the faucet. All you do is rotate the lever and it shuts off the downward flow. Water pops out the top like a water fountain. And by the way, the normal flow down is 1.2 gallons per minute. Out the top, it's only 0.28. So you're saving as much as 88% in fountain mode. You're not even trying to save water. My wife actually would use this to rinse her face before bed to rinse makeup without having a cup and splash and get water all over the counter. So that's what we've done. That's the invention. And you can get it on Wayfair or you can get it on Nasoni.com. They're on sale on Wayfair, by the way, and on our website. But, of course, because of COVID, we haven't been able to market anything, right? And so it's what do you do? How do you solve that challenge? Well, sometimes it's great just to know people, have a great network on LinkedIn and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
And there's power in that. So Dr. Nancy Gurdon is a well-known person in Hampton Roads. Nancy introduced me to Dr. Lisa Caperna. Lisa's the clinical director at Old Dominion University Monarch Physical Therapy. And she saw that and she goes, oh my gosh, if I had a sensor version of that, we could help spinal cord injured patients live more independently. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity or a great idea. Well, my wife had told me because we had all this financial challenge with COVID, the lockdowns, and the loss of all our marketing budget. I was actually pulling money out of my 401k to keep the company alive at the time. And my wife said, you want to think about a grant? I'm like, what am I going to do with a grant and a fountain faucet? But when Dr. Lisa Caperna mentioned that, I thought, man, this is a grant opportunity right there. Well, grants have about a 13% win rate. There's only a 13% probability you're going to win. So I said, I need to de-risk that. And I went and found the best grant writer I could. And he wanted $10,000 to help me write the phase 1 grant. Well, now I got to come up with 10 grand, right? Fortunately, you remember the PPP loan?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I got 20 grand out of the PPP loan. And I said, I'm going to take half of that. And I'm going to make this gamble that I can win this phase 1 grant because I've de-risked the money, right, by hiring a grant writer. And so I did. And long story short, we won the grant for $259,000. And the phase 1 clinical trial with ODU, we actually did a clinical trial with spinal cord injured patients, C7 and above. And it went fantastic. They loved it, the results. And so we applied for phase 2, which I actually won that for $2.02 million. And so we started down that path. Now, along the way, I also realized there might be another opportunity. So entrepreneurs, you're always thinking about ideas, right? And starting with who? So I talked about my mother-in-law and my wife's mother. She's now 89, but about 7 years ago, she was taking care of her husband, my father-in-law, as he declined with dementia over a 3-year period. And she helped him in the shower wash his hair. Well, he slipped and fell. She tried to catch him. She fell also. He hit the toilet. She hit the shower track. And I thought, there ought to be a safer way to wash your hair than in the bathroom shower. Why can't you do it at the bathroom sink? The faucets are just too low. They're not designed for that, right? And so I wrote a grant. First of all, I decided to write another grant to the National Institute of Aging. But if I'm going to do that, I needed a PhD in gerontology. So I went and found the best gerontologist in all of Hampton Roads. His name's Dr. Hamid Okravi, and he works at Eastern Virginia Medical School. And Dr. Okravi was just assigned to a 2-year term on the Alzheimer's Association board. That's how good he is, right? Speaks all over the world. And Dr. Okravi looks at me and he goes, Steve, I like the idea. I like you. And he goes, I want to work with you on this. He said, but I'm going to tell you, I have to call my patients every morning and every night and remind them to take their medications. I said, well, let's put that in the grant. We'll make that a goal to achieve, right? So we did. I hired my grant writer again. We put in another grant application for $2.58 million, and I won that this past September. So in the last 2.5 years, I've won $5 million in grants to reinvent the bathroom faucet and make the bathroom the center of health and wellness in the home. That's what we're actually doing.
Wow, incredible. And again, this is something that it never crossed my mind until I heard your TEDx talk and looked at your product. And just for everybody's reference as well, this is a very, very well made faucet. It is super heavy and durable. This is not going anywhere. I feel like if you had a house explosion, that pop faucet would still be perfectly operable. I really think that.
But to share with Tara, thank you for recognizing that, but to share with you why, my background, 25 years building nuclear powered aircraft carriers. I can't build a crappy product. What you buy in Home Depot and Lowe's today, 75% of faucets are sold in big box retail. And the problem is they're in a race to the bottom on price. The only way to get there is to cut quality. And so they now have plastic internals, plastic parts. When you actually pick up a Nasoni faucet, they are solid brass and they have a PVD finish and ceramic disc valve. It's the best you can get out of all of it. Best materials. And that was what I set out to do when I built it. So quality.
Wow. It's incredible. And, so many entrepreneurs are listening to this right now and hopefully getting inspired, taking notes, right? Your book, Valuepreneur, I would say is essential for anybody who runs a business, but it's really great when you're starting that business because there's so much information out there, Steve, you know that. And as somebody who's already navigated these waters, no pun intended, successfully, right? I think it's really important to grab your book before you start. I think this is the actual best place to start is by learning from somebody who's already gone through the path and traversed it so that you can learn from the failures and don't have to experience them yourself. Don't you think?
Absolutely. So when you get the book, you can actually go on our website, valuepreneurs.com, and there's the process that you can learn from. You can download this learning sheet, if you will, for free. It also shows you, how when you start out, really all you can do is bootstrap. And it shows you what investment opportunities come along as your product gets developed. There's all kind of interesting things here. But the book was a bucket list goal of mine to publish a book. And so it launched January of last year. Now, I felt really good about it. I was excited because it is, if you get the hardcover, it's in full color. Most business books are not in color. There is a black and white paperback if you don't want to spend as much. And it's also available in audiobook and Kindle. But when I published the book, I felt like it was worthy of some kind of recognition, but I didn't know if it would get any because it's self-published through my own publishing company I call Rosenthor Publishing. Now, Rosenthor Publishing donates a percentage of proceeds to German Shepherd rescue organizations because my wife and I rescue German Shepherds. And Rose and Thor are the names of our current German Shepherds that we rescued. So that's where the name came from. But as far as the book goes, I entered it into multiple book competitions, right, to see for entrepreneur books and things like that. And I just wanted to see if it might win an award. I had no idea whether it would, so I entered a bunch of them. Well, the long story short, it has won 23 book awards in 1 year, making it the most awarded book on entrepreneurship ever written.
Wow, congratulations. First off, I love everything about you is entrepreneurship. Even the way you self-published and created your own publishing house, it's like priceless, right? Because I did the exact same thing. It's so funny. And also we have a synergy with German Shepherds. I have a half German Shepherd, half Husky mix at home. Yeah, it's funny. But no, it's such a powerful lesson. And, this is something I believe with personal development as well and leadership. It's also not about starting with why. It's about starting with, in the terms of personal development, starting with yourself, right? So switching gears a little bit, because this show is about confidence, I can't imagine, all those Kraken hits that your ship took during this time that, I can't imagine that it didn't have an impact on the confidence that you had as an entrepreneur, that you had for a vision of your company in some kind of a way, right? Because this is where most people fall.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great entrepreneurs, talented people, smart as all get out, who have great companies and products that just don't cross the finish lines that you have, Steve. So sometimes it's because they're failing, and it knocks their confidence so much that they give up. I would love for you to talk to those people for just a moment. Give them some sage wisdom, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, I'll start with the fact that, when you're entering this space to become an entrepreneur, you want to find that area that you're passionate about, because it is not a straight journey from start to finish and you start here and you end to the goal line. Not a straight path. You're going to have a pitfall. I promise you, all along the way. And there's going to be a lot of them. And the only way you get through those is by caring about what you're doing to make a difference, right? And, when I think about the investors I have two investors that invest in me, one in Minnesota and one here locally. And the old saying is, you bet on the jockey, not the horse, right? And I want to be that jockey they bet on that's going to get it to the finish line, right? I can't let them down. And I don't want to let myself down. And I really care about the mission of what we're doing. So right now, the two grants we're working is to make the lives of spinal cord injury patients easier and better, help them by regaining independence, right? And the same with aging. Aging comes with challenges. My father, and this is the thing here, my father was an Army veteran and, very independent, and aging took away his independence. And a lot of that came from dehydration. I didn't have a clue that 80% of the falls occur in the bathroom, number one. And number two, the primary source of falls is dehydration. Now, he drank coffee in the morning and Cokes the rest of the day. I never had a clue that dehydration was a problem, but there alone, he never drank water, right? So it's a problem. And if he fell, I didn't know it. So we are actually building a fall detection radar solution with our faucet. And all the stuff we're doing, though, has a mission, right? So I am trying to solve some big problems for a lot of people, me and my team, that is. I got some great people working with me on solving these challenges. I probably have 6 PhDs. I've got 2 universities. I've got 2 major product development companies, Nottingham Spurk in Cleveland, Ohio, and Spark Product Development in Richmond, Virginia. And they're both just doing fantastic work. And so I'm excited about what we're doing. I come to work excited every single day because I care about this mission, right? And what we're doing and who we're going to help, solving these challenges for these people, right? If I wasn't passionate about it, I'd give up. And so you got to be passionate about what you're after.
Yeah, so much wisdom there. It's got to be one of those things where you start to laugh at failure and you take it as a moment of gratitude. I know I sure do fail plenty, right? When I fail, I've reframed it to thank God that I didn't get entangled with that, because it must mean I have something so much greater ahead of me. I just need to keep on the path, keep on the course, keep pursuing, right?
Well, and remember, there's always another resource out there. What I don't do is I don't necessarily start out with, say, how can I reinvent something? I look at what others have done and then see if I can do it better, right? Yeah. And then there's an old adage, there's that book from Dan Sullivan, right? Who, not how. So it goes back to your network, right? Somebody else has figured it out. Leverage their support. If you're stuck, there's somebody else out there who knows how to solve what you're doing. You just got to find them. And I'll tell you what else, man, I use a big freelancer network. I've been using Elance and Upwork. Elance is gone now. It became Elance and Odesk merged to become Upwork. But there's that and Fiverr. And I use them all the time to hire freelancers, which is a great resource for entrepreneurs and even business owners.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that. Well, Steve, such a pleasure talking to you today. So much wisdom, really, for anybody who's either thinking about starting business or has a business that is looking to take it to that next level. I encourage everyone to read Steve's book. Get it on Amazon. It's got a couple hundred reviews right now, right, Steve?
350.
350. You never stop. This is another thing I've noticed about you. I want to just give you a compliment real quick. You are so ruthlessly consistent.
Thank you.
Ruthlessly. And I mean that in the best way possible, because you know what? last time I checked, and I left a review for your book, it was 200s. Now it's in the 300s. You're always growing in the right direction. And again, somebody to follow.
Did
For
you
the
check the TEDx
inspiration.
views? Did you check the TEDx views?
No,
You haven't?
I last time I checked, it was in the 800,000s.
It broke 1 million. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
See? I love it. Love it. Well, Steve, where can everyone learn more about you, your products, and everything that you have to offer?
Couple places. One, LinkedIn. Easy to find on LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/n/Steve Waddell. And there's also a website, swaddell.com. That one's being updated. And then lastly, there's nasoni.com, NASONI.com, and valuepreneurs.com. So just value and preneurs put together. And that's where you can find me. I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, connect with Steve on LinkedIn. Check out his amazing books and his products. You guys will be so impressed. But yes, if you love this show, which I know you did, please like, follow, subscribe, share, leave a review. Let us know what you liked about this episode in the comments. We love hearing from our fans and listeners, and your support means the world to us. So drop in the comments, leave a review, and share with your audiences, and we will catch you on the next episode. Take care.